Good afternoon, everybody. This is what's supposed to be this morning. Earlier this morning, while I was on a call with the group I'm involved with, we were in the middle of a Nelson Mandela conversation, and I got a text. And I kept my phone on for a particular reason, and the text says, "Welcome to the world, our new granddaughter." Literally in congruence with that, just before 9 a.m. Pacific this morning, my son and his wife and certainly my wife and I were awarded with the news of a new granddaughter. It was just so exciting and so perspective inducing, and it was ironic too because we were on the call I was on. We were talking about Nelson Mandela amongst other things, and I have always been, I talk to clients about it all the time, fascinated with the idea of longevity. I think ultimately the greatest win is to stand the test of time. And we were getting into that a little bit with other things we talked about, but a gentleman named Brian Kurtz was leading our call, talked about Nelson Mandela. So I started to research all this Mandela and Mandela said that everybody can rise above. So these are things I want to share with my granddaughter. And I think they're anecdotal to everything. They're certainly anecdotal to the startup of you, something I talked about a couple of days ago, because she is ultimately now in the startup. She's beginning her life. What would you tell? There's that thing going around. What would you tell your 20-year-old self? Or what would you tell your grandkids? And to stand on the shoulders of giants, to learn from people, to audit their wisdom, as it were, is one of the greatest things. And you've heard me talk about success leaving clues. Certainly, they're everywhere, and certainly with people like Mandela. So Mandela said everybody can rise above. And this is what I would love to tell my granddaughter, and I will, although she's only 6 hours old right now. Everybody can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they're dedicated to and passionate about what they do. We've all heard this before. I'm going to take Nelson Mandela's word for it. Nelson Mandela survived the test of time. He had longevity. He said, "Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again." Longevity. Share it with my granddaughter. Share it with her startup of her as she goes out into this world. There's no passion to be found by playing small and settling for a life that is less than the one you're capable of living. Who wouldn't tell this to their grandkids? I will. Real leaders must be ready to sacrifice all for the freedom of the people. I do want to share this with my granddaughter. I think this is so important overall, certainly in these times we live in. I like friends who have independent minds because they tend to make you see problems from different angles. Who wouldn't love friends like that, right? So again, I kept thinking about all these things. I am reading some of this because I'm honestly overcome with a little bit of emotion here, of course, and at the same time, I want to remember these things. I want to write them down. I want to put them in her brain, and of course anybody's brain who's listening. I think they're so anecdotal to the startup of you. Longevity. Think about Warren Buffett. I talked yesterday about the difference between Jim Morrison and Bruce Springsteen. I was a big Jim Morrison fan. Bruce has stood the test of time. The greatest people who've ever played any game, sports. Stephen Curry's 36 years old, LeBron James. I'm not talking greatest of all times. People who stand the test of time. I am fascinated by it. And I want to share that, with her and of course with you. There's a dude named, I haven't listened much to him, but I do know that he gave a great analogy about how to stand the test of time. What's his name? Gary Vaynerchuk. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And he said, you got to love the dirt, not the gossip kind of dirt, but the dirt, like digging down, really getting granular, understanding how things work. The dirt is where you start. The dirt is where you're built. The dirt is where you find your initial successes. young granddaughter, anyone else who's listening. The dirt is things that don't scale. It's like talking to people. It's like spending time learning in the weeds at the most granular level. It's where you really find early gold. Learn how things work. Learn how people work. Learn how you work. Everyone on any sort of journey to success understands. Think Warren Buffett once again. I've had opportunity to work in a couple of Stephen Curry's camps. Buffett is a fundamental guy. He just follows certain fundamentals. He believes in dirt. Stephen Curry's workouts, his commitment to fundamentals are unyielding. So a lot of people start there, but very few people fall in love with it. Advice to my granddaughter, advice to anybody who's listening. Some get an early taste of success and they leave the dirt behind. Don't leave the dirt behind. Always come back to where you come from and how you got where you got. Again, the dirt is where it's found. You've got to love the dirt. So this is my advice to my granddaughter and to my grandkids and for their own startup. She happens to be in the startup of you in hour 6. All the other people, anybody who's listening to this stuff and who gives a crap about it and believes in the concept of Reid Hoffman's startup of you. I've decided, I was telling my assistant, I'm going to build a course around it, but we'll get there later. But for right now, happy birthday, young lady. Happy birthday to anybody else who's born today. Happy birthday to all of us. Love the dirt. Get into the weeds. Learn about each other. Learn about yourself. And I wish you all longevity and welcome to the world. Congratulations to my son and his wife and their families, and stay safe, everybody.